Thank you all for coming, for both our candidates and for the audience. This is the fourth Traverse City Neighborhood Forum. In 2013, the neighborhood presidents got together and we decided that we wanted to be part of the conversation and how Traverse City would develop into the future, so we had our first forum in 2013. This forum is sponsored by the Boardman neighborhood with assistance from Janet Fleshman, who is the president of the Old Town neighborhood, there's Janet, and we had some assistance with Central neighborhood residents. And we have a whole lot of candidates here and not a whole lot of time, so we're going to try and get as many questions in as we can. So first we'll go over the format. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then we'll have a series of questions that for the last week we've been soliciting from the neighborhood residents. For the first series of questions, the first candidate that gets a question will get a minute, and then the rest of the candidates 30 seconds to answer the same question. That's a little bit different, but. And then we will have a few questions as we're going along that might only need 30 seconds and a 15-second for the rest. And then we might throw in a lightning round just to get everybody on their toes there. So we'll see. To keep us on track, we have our timekeeper extraordinaire, Mike Hoko, here. Mike has a very sophisticated, state-of-the-art system for timing. And so the candidates will see the time going down, and then when the time is up, there'll be an audible. And we couldn't do it without our timekeeper. We have moderated. The first time we did this, it was so loud, we scared the daylights out of the candidates. And they were like stopping 10 minutes ahead of time because they didn't want to get the buzzer. So. But we're not going to do that this time. There will be a public segment after that. In the past, we used to do the index cards so that everybody would be walking around, you know, waving the cards and stuff, and I think that's kind of distracting. So we're going to throw caution to the wind, and we're going to let you ask your own questions this time. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So now I'm going to read about the candidates, not about them, but about the demographics here. And I'm going to read it because 2 years ago I screwed this up royally. Oh, no. So I'm going to read this. There are 10 candidates for 5 open seats. There are 3 incumbents, and there are 7 newbies in the group. There are 3 subcategories within this group, and when I get to your subcategory, just kind of wave so everyone knows who you are. There are 2 candidates for mayor, including our current mayor. Oh, very nice. Then there are 6 candidates for 3 4-year terms, and that includes 2. Oh, we got it down, do we? And that includes 2 incumbents, of which right now we only have Amy is the only one here right now. Then there are 2 candidates for 1 2-year term, finishing out Michelle Howard's term. So there are those 2. So, and right now, so we have right now incumbent mayor and Amy. Roger Putman has a very important family event, and he couldn't be here, and he was really upset about that. So we asked him to write a statement of introduction, and we will have that statement read by Mike Jackson from the Central neighborhood. Mike? Can you get up here?
Where you want
Yeah. We might as well get you out of the way. We'll just get you out of the way.
I thought it would be
I
the
know,
last one.
I know. I just threw you a curve.
So just pretend I'm Roger Putnam, and this is his statement. Friends and neighbors, please accept my sincere regrets for not being here for tonight's forum. I very much appreciate the opportunity to share a few words about my desire and reasons to continue serving our community as a city commissioner for 4 more years. Over the past several months, many agencies, associations, and organizations have helped introduce the community to the individuals running for mayor and commission seats via questionnaires, surveys, and forums such as tonight's, hosted by the Boardman Neighborhood Association. It is a tribute to this wonderful city we call home that so many are interested in finding out more about each candidate to help determine not only who to vote for, but also ensuring those who are elected will serve the community honorably. I'm going to express some thoughts to consider that aren't necessarily tied to the conventional process of a particular platform, but are deeply embedded principles, guidelines, if you will, to the responsibility of being an elected public official. As candidates, we are often asked, what is your position on a particular issue? Or do you support or oppose a particular project or process? I feel there is an obligation to put into perspective that the duty of a city commissioner is not to carry a predetermined opinion to any issue, but rather an eventual conclusion based on studying provided resources, listening to concerned citizens, staff, and fellow commissioners, while keeping this simple thought in mind. A city commissioner leads when necessary, offers support when required, but never forgets that they are obligated to serve the people, no exceptions. My name is Roger Putnam, and those principles are the foundation of my promise, if elected, to serve the citizens of Traverse City with distinction, honor, and high ethical standards. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th. Good luck to all of the candidates, and thanks to everyone for attending. And remember, strong neighborhoods are the soul and anchor of a strong community. Roger Putnam.
Very nice. I think I'd embroider that on a pillow if I knew how to embroider. Very nice. Let's see, now where did we left off? All right, where did we leave off? Yeah, 2 minutes. All right. Yeah. All right, here we are. Finally, the event is being taped by Leah for broadcast on Traverse City Community Media, which was formerly Media North Up Live, and Community TV Channel 189. And I didn't realize it's being taped live tonight. So, nobody mentioned that one, so. A little late to cancel, but we'll see. And one thing I've been asked, because it's being taped and some people won't be able to see the candidates, that I'm going to have to mention everybody's name as I answer each question, so the people that might be listening on a radio will be able to see who is talking. So just kind of an odd thing. So candidates, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, starting with, let's just start with Mayor Carruthers. So it's Mayor Carruthers.
Not me.
No, the other mayor.
Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you to the Boardman neighborhood for hosting us candidates here tonight. My name is Jim Carruthers. I'm the current mayor of Traverse City. And
We can't touch the mic.
I'm not supposed to touch the mic. So,
Well, he listens, that's good.
talking. Let's see if it works. Okay, my name is Jim Carruthers. I'm the mayor of Traverse City, and I've been mayor for 4 years, and I was city commissioner for 8 years prior to that. I'm not running for any particular reason. I don't have an agenda. I don't have special interest. I believe in my community. I believe in service to my community, and so I'd like to continue leading this community as your mayor. During my tenure, I've worked with residential and commercial neighborhoods to promote growth while also managing the character of this great city, which is why so many people want to live here. I've also supported policy and efforts to protect all of our citizens, no matter their gender, sexual orientation, nationality, race, or age. I've also championed our renewable energy programs and have made Traverse City 100% renewable city, worked to get the M72 wind generator up here many years ago as the first of its kind, and have set policy to hopefully be a part of the action to counteract climate change in this country as well as in the world. So I feel I've represented you very well. It's been my privilege and an honor to represent you as mayor. As Roger Putnam said, we do this for you. We're accountable to you, and I would appreciate your vote in November, and I appreciate being here tonight. So thank you for attending this forum.
Now we'll have Shay O'Brien for mayor.
Can everybody hear me?
Not yet.
Just hold the microphone right up to you. I was raised in Traverse City. I grew up on Fern Street. I attended Traverse Heights Elementary School. I graduated from Central, and I took courses at NMC. I volunteered at Community Garden, at the Denos Museum, and at NMC. I currently work at Burris Fresh Market. As someone who lives, works, and volunteers in this community, I'm running for mayor to lead us and the region in resolving what some would call all the right problems. Our economy, our environment, our local life, and our schools, and so many other things are all dependent on us using the tools at our disposal to address the one thing tied to them all, housing. It's time for us to take action.
All right, now we have the two candidates for the two-year term, and so we can start with Christy.
Okay. I would also like to thank the Boardman neighborhood for hosting the forum tonight, and I would love it if T. Michael Jackson could read my opening statement for me too, because he has an amazing voice. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a 21-year resident of Traverse City, and I've had many roles during those 21 years that I think uniquely qualify me to serve as a city commissioner. I've been an advocate on issues surrounding gender equality, smart growth, and ending homelessness. And I've used my writing and my own advocacy to promote those issues. I've been a community builder who's been very involved with area nonprofits, starting with the founding of the Great Lakes Children's Museum in the early 2000s. I've served on the Arts Council, and I've chaired the Traverse City Arts Commission. I was on the founding board of Impact 100, which is a women's philanthropy group here in Traverse City. I've served 8 years on Safe Harbor to develop a seasonal emergency shelter and see it through to fruition with fundraising. I currently serve on the Human Rights Commission and also chair an organization called Woman to Woman, which is primary mission is to get more women into elected and appointed positions. And I'm also on the board of Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities. Probably more importantly, I am a business owner and an employer. I have owned Sanctuary Handcrafted Goods at the Commons for about 15 years, and I feel like the business ownership makes me qualified to run the business of the city as well.
I think we had the timer kind of.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. Time's
That
up.
wasn't on my job.
Yep.
We're having a little technical issue in being able to pick up people's voices. So our technician has asked that you do move the microphone up close, like about
Okay.
6 inches out when you talk. So the exact opposite instructions we start.
All right, now for the second candidate for the two-year term is Tom Mayer.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. Competition with good weather makes organizers worry as to how many people will actually show up, so this is a good crowd. I hope you haven't voted yet, since this is actually the first time that no reason absentee voting is available, if you don't know that already. I'm a former county commissioner. I was elected in 16. I replaced Christine Maxbauer. I served in 17 and 18 and had many special assignments, including the jail task force, the jail ad hoc, actually. I hired 2 county commissioners, or county administrators, I mean, which is unusual in such a short amount of time. So I'm familiar with that process. And I understand the chain of command in the city. The only person that we really are speaking to is the city manager. Just as in the county, it's the county administrator. We don't actually interact with the staff. And I've studied, even today, I was studying tax capture having to do with brownfields and TIF. And I can tell you that I don't support the renewal of TIF 97, and I have many good reasons. The money that was quoted in the newspaper at $1.5 million as would be left on the table is inaccurate. It actually goes back to all the taxing jurisdictions that it would normally set with, including the college, including the Commission on Aging, including veterans. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the sum of money that includes is probably actually more than $1.5 million, by the way. And the county and the city are looking at the possibility that what will be the effect on the budget of the city and the county if TIF 97 is not renewed? Very important. Thank you.
Now we have the 5 candidates for the 3 positions. So we will start out now with Ashley Walter.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm not supposed to touch this, but I'm just going to move it. My name is Ashley Walter. That's better. And I have the honor of running for a 4-year seat on the City Commission. I've lived in the central neighborhood with my family for over a decade and moved here after graduating from Kalamazoo College. Then I lived in the Empire area for about 10 years, where I was elected to the Village Council and served there for several years, was involved in the chamber as a small business owner, and started the Empire Asparagus Festival. It's a fun fact. In the past 10 years living in Traverse City with my family, I've thrown myself into a lot of great initiatives and community endeavors where I use my communications and engagement background to give back. Some of these include the Michigan Legacy Art Park, served on the board. I served as president of Norte for several years. The TCAPS Bond Campaign, president of TCAPS Montessori PTO for a couple years. TART Smart Commute Committee and vice chair of the TC Arts Commission. And I have the honor of serving with Christy on the Women to Women board as well. This is, in addition, obviously, to many people up here as well, volunteer work for our schools, church, and most importantly, civil rights activism. I learned about service first from my parents, growing up in Romeo, Michigan, in the Detroit area. They served as church deacons, and my mom served on the school board while going to law school as an adult. And they were also activists for important community causes, in addition to having busy careers and empowering our family to be active members of our democracy by picking up a clipboard and organizing to solve our community's problems together. So that's why I'm here today. It's important to me for my daughters and my family to see, and the experience I bring as a coalition builder.
Our next candidate for a 4-year term is Amy Shamrow.
Hello, and I wanted to first say thank you to everybody for attending tonight. Also, thank you for all the hard work putting this together. I know it can't be easy herding these cats up here, but because there are quite a few of us this time. I wanted to say that I am Amy Shamrow. I was born and raised in Traverse City. My father was a paramedic until he was in the ER, so I hope none of you had the chance to meet him, but if you did, I hope it was, he helped you out. And my mother worked in the electrical industry here for about 25 years without a degree, working her way up from a secretary to managing sales and helping to start being a part of the team that started with Keene Electric. And I say all of that because I think that's a reflection of how Traverse City has changed. It's been an honor for me to serve these last 4 years to help have a voice as both a native, who I will add is old enough that I went to high school and there was only one high school, so I don't have that distinction to name. But I saw this town when I left high school as a place that I didn't want to move back to. Not because it wasn't beautiful and not because it isn't a wonderful place, but because there were no opportunities here. You either kind of went to a retail shop or maybe you got an administrative job somewhere, but there wasn't a lot for a lot of young people. And so to be able to come back here to see what so many people have helped build, business owners, people like Brian Crow, people on commissions previously, and to be a part of that has been such a privilege. In my own time, I've really worked on trying to complete the Boardman Loop, which we all know is not quite there yet. I was on the steering committees for 8th Street. I had the privilege of leading the ad hocs that have now led to us having a full vote for fiber citywide provided by Traverse City Light and Power. I was on the Traverse City Light and Power board that set the 2040 goal that we're still working hard on, and the 2020 goal that the City Commission has started. So while there's been a lot going on in the last 4 years, I might add, with a lot of different commissions, there's still more work to be done, and I hope to be reelected to continue working on that. Thank you.
And our next candidate for a 4-year seat is Dave Durbin.
Hello, I'm Dave Durbin. I've lived in Traverse City for 20 years now. I've owned my own business for most of that time. I live in the Old Town neighborhood. The main reason that I'm running, is that all right? The main reason I'm running is I've had a lot of conversations with my neighbors, with other citizens around town. And there's a common theme with most of them, and that is that just because we live in Traverse City, just because we've figured out a way to live here, it doesn't mean that we've got it figured out. It doesn't mean we have it made. And what they mean by that, I think, is that, it's expensive to live here. We know that. There's data that demonstrates that we have a high cost of living. And there's data that demonstrates that our income doesn't match that high cost of living. And so it can be difficult to make ends meet sometimes. In fact, a lot of times. And I think that as we make this motion toward the future of trying to balance our demographics, we want to get younger families into town. I think that makes sense. I think we need to do that. I think we need to develop our economy downtown. So these things are moving forward, and all those things make sense, and I support those ideas. But we want to remember the people who already live here. We want to make sure that they have a voice, that their needs are being met too. We need to provide an environment where our neighborhoods can thrive, our business community can thrive, and the people that already live here can thrive. So that's why I'm running. If that narrative suits you, I hope you'll vote for me on November 5th. Thank you.
Our next candidate for the four-year seat is Evan Daly.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thank you to the Boardman neighborhood for organizing this, and thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Evan Daly. I'm 31 years old. I'm a lifelong resident of the Traverse City area here. I work full-time at Haggerty, and I also work part-time at Reduno. My wife and I are raising two beautiful little girls in the Sofo neighborhood, and I'm on the Traverse City Parks and Recreation Commission, where I've been for a little over a year now, and I also am on the organizing committee for Northern Michigan DSA. I am running for this seat to give back to a community that has given me everything that I have, and also to be a voice for working people in city government. I think that the most important issue facing our community right now is the lack of affordable housing. I think that there are too many people who are being and have been priced out of our community, and I think that we need to take action to ensure that folks of all income levels and all backgrounds can live comfortably in our community without having to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. In addition to that, I'm a strong advocate for the environment, believe in smart development, sustainable development. I think that as we continue to grow, which we inevitably will do, we need to focus a lot of our development and density on certain corridors and in our downtown, try to prevent the kind of urban sprawl that you see in other places, while preserving and expanding on green spaces where possible. We also need to recognize that we are on the shore of Grand Traverse Bay here, very fortunate to be there. And we've got the Boardman River flowing through and Kids Creek, and we need to do everything we can to preserve that precious natural resource. And finally, I'm a big advocate for pedestrian and bicycle and transit infrastructure. I think that as we remove barriers to those seeking active transportation, more people will do so. We'll have a more connected community, and we'll all be better off for it. I'm running to create a Traverse City for all, not just the wealthy. Thank you.
And our final candidate for a four-year term is Katie Bertodato.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. My name is Katie Bertodato. I might be the whitest, blondest Italian you'll ever meet. I moved here 16 years ago to take advantage of the aviation program at NMC. I'm a pilot. I'm raising 2 teenage sons in Central Neighborhood. I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan, and then I studied commercial real estate analysis and development through MIT. I'm using what I learned there on the Governmental Relations Committee and the Housing Advocacy Committee, and I was recently just invited to join the City Opera House Board, so I'm pretty excited about that. I am running to represent young families and our workforce through thoughtful economic development and protection of our neighborhoods where we are raising our children. Thank you.
And I was corrected. I accidentally cut off
There's the-
Christy, I guess, because she.
I lost a minute.
Yeah, she had. He started off at a minute, so she didn't get her. So anyway, finish up. Really? Well, you looked at me like, what the heck?
I was rattling off kind of a list of my experience and what my contribution has been to the community over the last 21 years. But what I wanted to finish by saying is that the resume that I'm proud of. It's my experience as being a doer that I'm proud of. I do the important work. I get down and dig into problems, and I'm not afraid to take on difficult challenges and see them through to completion. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to get down to the questions. We said they have 1 minute to answer. The first candidate gets 1 minute, and then the other ones get 30 seconds. And I will have to be using your name each time, so it's going to be kind of silly. But anyway, overwhelmingly, I've got hundreds of questions, and overwhelmingly, the number one question is about short-term rentals, way beyond anything else. So I guess we'll start right out with a question submitted by one of the neighbors. And do you want to start? We'll start here. All right, so for Shay, we have, do you support unhosted vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods?
I support hosted, owner-occupied short-term rentals because it has zero impact on our long-term housing stock. I also think it's a tool for residents, to use to pay their bills, and why would we take that away from them?
Wow. All right, so now we have Jim. I'm just going to use your first names because it's going to get kind of weird after a while.
Do 15 or 30? 30 seconds?
30.
I've supported the policy that the City Commission has moved forward of hosted stays in our residential neighborhoods with high and low intensities, and we allow vacation rentals in our commercial districts. So I'm hoping that we can move on for a few years, collect some data, see how it goes, and then possibly revisit that in the future. But at this point, I'm happy with what we've done so far. I believe that vacation rentals should be hosted, and that is what I'm hearing from the neighborhoods. That's what I'm hearing from the people around me. And I think we allow so with tourist homes with a distance between them. So let's make it work, and let's see how it goes.
Christy?
I also agree that the current ordinance, the way that it's written, it seems fair. I do not support unoccupied second or third home residences being rented out as vacation homes in the neighborhood. But again, I do support the current ordinance as it's written, and would not anticipate amending it. Thank you.
And Tom?
Yes, I'm a little skeptical because I live in a residential neighborhood that is got both things going on. I live on a street that's residential, single-family homes, but rentals take place. And behind me on Front Street, it's a different zone, so they can have the short-term rentals. But I'm afraid that it actually drives up the price of the real estate, and it's historically high right now, and it's counterproductive towards creating some affordable housing. Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you. We need to remain great stewards of our neighborhoods and always have community first in our minds. I do not support the extension of short-term rentals beyond hosted short-term rentals. It seems reasonable to me if someone wants to go away for Cherry Festival for a week to rent their house out. Seems like a lot of work, and I wouldn't do it, but I am in favor of that, but I'm not in favor of expanding it, as we'll lose our neighborhoods like we've seen in area towns like Sutton's Bay and Charlevoix.
Amy?
Our residential neighborhoods are for residents. I don't really see that as being really any open to interpretation as far as housing goes. I think that what we came to for our short-term hosted that we just got done discussing was very good. I would consider, if there was evidence for it, revisiting that, only because I think the terminology for the nights per adult per room gets a little confusing for people who might want to rent out their rooms to help with their mortgage or help with costs. But that's the only thing I could anticipate seeing a little change on.
Dave?
I think the one thing we need to distinguish is whether it's your primary residence or not. If it's your primary residence, the home that you live in, you should be able to rent that out. If you have a room and you want to be there with your guests, that makes perfect sense. If you go camping with your family for a week and you want to rent it out while you're away, that makes perfect sense. This is happening 1,000,000 times a night around the globe on Airbnb, and there are no issues with it. So in a destination place like Traverse City, it's a great way for local residents to supplement their income in an expensive town.
And Katie?
Do you want
Oh,
Evan to
do you want,
answer this?
do you want to talk also? Evan?
Yeah, thank you.
Sit back, please.
So I would concur with Dave. I think that there is a legitimate concern about short-term rentals removing full-time housing stock. So I wouldn't want to see any full-time short-term rentals operating in any residential neighborhoods or in our commercial districts. But, you know, if you own your home and you live there year-round and you want to go out of town for a couple weeks out of the year, you should be able to rent it out to somebody while you're gone. I don't see any problem with that.
And Katie?
Thank you. I believe I'm in this industry, and I've worked on this issue quite a bit with the Housing Advocacy Committee, and we're looking into short-term rental regulation in a reasonable manner. If it's your primary residence, you're not taking anything from the housing stock, it shouldn't be an issue. But as far as investment properties in our residential zones, I do not believe in that.
All right, for our second round, we'll start with the mayor. Do you think that the city has a specific role in providing affordable housing? And if so, how would you do this?
Well, the city of Traverse City does have the Traverse City Housing Commission. We do provide housing for qualified people. The city's also supported pilots, payment in lieu of taxes to support housing with WODA and with the home stretch. We provided neighborhood enterprise zone opportunities for people to invest in their neighborhoods. We've done renaissance zones to help spur development and encourage housing. We've even sold property at below market value to encourage the depot neighborhood to happen. So I support us looking into affordable housing, but we also have to decide, you know, how much is too much and of our tax dollars going towards that when we have other infrastructure that is desperately needing to fix. So it's a big challenge that we face. Affordable housing is a very important issue, but the economy and the market is what it is. We're trying to balance that out, but we only have so many dollars to go around.
Christy?
I believe that the city absolutely has a role in promoting affordable housing for its residents, and we do have some tools that we can use. I have promoted the idea of doing an audit of city-owned property, not unlike what happened at the depot, and looking at surface parking lots as potentially being developed for affordable housing. I also support payment in lieu of taxes as a tool that we can use, and providing infrastructure like sidewalks and beta bus stops and other infrastructure that's going to help applications score high for MISTA. Thank you.
Tom?
Thank you. I want to start with the Housing Summit will be at the Haggerty Center on October 18th, and that's the most important event happening this fall about housing. And I follow the words of Sarah Lucas. She says public support will drive housing, so we need more public support, more than we need other things. Whether you're an executive coming into Traverse City or you're just getting started as a graduate from college, it's hard to find a place at many income levels because places are really just scarce. Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you. It's time to stop talking about housing and actually do something about housing. Raise your hand if you're in favor of that. We have been talking about it for years and have been making some progress, but not fast enough for the need that we have desperately in our community to be able to meet the demands of all different kinds of housing. And I definitely support more building a strategic plan for housing in Traverse City. We don't have one at this point, and that would help guide the city toward a real solution.
Amy?
All right, 30 seconds. So Jim covered some of the things that we're already doing. The truth of the matter is that we have lots of very strange state laws that tie our hands on things. So while I totally agree that the public support drives it, the public support is there, and we are trying to work within the frameworks we have. We're trying to implore people to help us get changes at the state level. In the meantime, I think that one of the things we do have to look at is that we are a very unique region in the north. And so getting everybody at the table and not saying, well, we did this, now you go do that, is something we have to have a more holistic conversation about with everyone from Garfield to East Bay and beyond.
And Dave?
I think when it comes to affordable housing in Traverse City, it's such a relative term. I just use the term housing because if we can create more housing units, just based on supply and demand, you're going to see houses become more affordable housing. So how do we get more units? We have to get creative, and we have to be willing to be creative. There are some good ideas, but I've only got 4 seconds. I'd be glad to talk to you about it afterwards.
And Katie?
Evan?
Oh, you started. Did you start?
No.
No.
Oh.
No, you just skipped Evan again.
Evan?
Thank you.
Evan, I don't see you.
Yes, of course, the city has a role to play in the creation of affordable housing. I happen to believe that housing, a decent, comfortable housing, is a right, and I would like to see the city pursue more aggressively the creation of affordable housing in the city limits. I do support the payment in lieu of taxes process that we have in place. I think it could be reviewed a little so that when it goes to the state, it is more often going to meet approval. But yes, I think the city has a role to play, of course.
And now me?
And Katie?
I think the first question is affordable for whom? We have 8 square miles here in the city of Traverse City, and frankly, you don't put low-income housing on your most expensive real estate, period. Now, that being said, if we want to talk mid-level housing and some creative solutions, we can certainly do that. I'm a part of the Housing Advocacy Committee, and we're working in 10 counties right now, but we need a local committee because rural Kalkaska is different from what we need in here in Traverse City.
All right, we'll have our next.
Do I get to go?
Okay, just a lot of us. All right, we'll get into this, all right.
Everybody has some great ideas up here at the table. I'm in favor of pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. I'm also in favor of exploring pieces of property that are owned by the city for affordable housing. I would even be in favor of exploring inclusionary zoning. There are cities around the country that are actually doing that, and Detroit is one of them.
Is everybody done now? Wow. All righty. Our next question will be Christy. And what, if anything, should be done to mitigate commercial intrusions of noise, traffic, and parking into established residential neighborhoods?
So I'm guessing that you're talking about the buffer between commercial zones and the neighborhoods. And when I've been out talking to voters, that's what I'm hearing about, concerns about parking and traffic and noise and nuisance, drinking, and loitering and so forth. I think that 8th Street and what's happened there is a really great example of how investing in infrastructure in your community can actually protect the neighborhoods. Since the completion of 8th Street, people are using it like it was intended for pedestrians, cycles, and cars, but they're walking their dogs and they're coming home from the library with their children and so forth. Really, when you have a community that is vibrant and people on the street and neighbors greeting one another, it's safer, and it's and people are less likely to break the rules, I guess, or to create a nuisance. So I think 8th Street's a great example of where we should be going with these buffer zones.
Tom?
Well, the buffer zones, let's just take one neighborhood, Slabtown, for example. Slabtown doesn't want any more big blue boxes in their neighborhood where a home, turn-of-century home gets demolished and a square box gets erected at over the height of the other buildings that are in their neighborhood. There's one on Oak Street, sort of behind the fire hall, north of Front Street, if you want to see what's unusual about what people are building in the neighborhoods today. It's probably like 3 or 4 times the size of any other home in its neighborhood, and it doesn't meet the same look architecturally either. So I'm a little bit concerned about what is a buffer, I guess.
Ashley?
These are real issues, and I hear about it a lot too in our neighborhood. Speed through central neighborhood, the conditions in central neighborhood streets. And these are real concerns for sure. One thing we can do to cut down on traffic is to encourage each other through policy and infrastructure to bike and walk and carpool more. That'll cut down on traffic through the neighborhoods. And that's a way to increase community connection as well, which cuts down on some of the other nuisances. Thank you.
Amy?
Yeah, so as our favorite golden voiced figure here, T. Mike said, when he was talking about T. Michael Jackson said, when we were talking about the downtown officer, I think that's been something that's been helping, putting that emphasis on something that's a very clear issue with the boundary. So when you get closer to downtown, having a police involvement, having the community involved. But the 8th Street involvement, we had a steering committee for that. I think it was very important having the community voices involved as we plan those out going forward. You see the stop signs at Madison. Those are a result of community outreach as well. So I think it's also important to have that dialogue as we go through all of these on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis.
Dave?
Yeah, I think what Amy touched on is having that enforcement officer being visible has already shown great returns. We've already seen an impact, and things have calmed down downtown. So it may be worth, in these neighborhoods where there are issues, to have that conversation with the neighborhood groups and see if it makes sense to explore allotting funds for more officers like that. There's just a visibility factor that seems to calm things down.
Evan?
I would echo some of the calls for better infrastructure. I think when you create infrastructure that allows for people to walk around their neighborhoods with their families, ride their bikes safely, bring people out to their front porches, it leads to a greater sense of community. There's more eyes on the street, more eyes on the neighborhood, and you see fewer of these lewd incidents, I suppose.
Katie?
Yeah, we have setbacks for development for a reason, and the buffer zone is part of that. I'm hoping the tree ordinance that we're putting into place with an emphasis on more green space, I'm hoping that will help. I think as far as, the drinking and the noise, the downtown officer helps. And now with 8th Street done, hopefully we'll have less traffic on Washington and more business for 8th Street, because that is a good commercial corridor, and hopefully people use it.
Shay?
I believe that if we increase the livable density in our city, we'll have what Evan actually touched on, more eyes on the streets. I live in a condo. I left my bike out unlocked all night last night, and nobody stole it because people are coming and going constantly. So I just think that we need more eyes on the streets, and that will mitigate a lot of the issues that we're facing in our neighborhoods.
Jim?
We should be enforcing our noise ordinance, which is from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. to mitigate some of the noise in our community. And we should also be enforcing our truck routes. Trucks have certain routes they're allowed to drive on in this community, and then they should not be driving through our neighborhoods. And I've heard those complaints for years. Working on TTCI, the Traverse City Transportation Coordinating Initiative, we're talking about networking with the various shippers that do bring produce to our community and goods, and making them use those routes.
All right, the next question will start with Tom. And it's, do you think we should cooperate with the county and townships in regional issues such as housing and transportation? And how could we start this process?
Well, thank you for that. I was county commissioner, and that would be one thing that I would say we don't do enough is do planning with the city and the county together. And probably because Garfield Township is the fastest growing township, we should be talking to them as well. But I would add to that group of government bodies, I would add the tribe, Grand Traverse Band. They are their own government. They're a sovereign government. And they are participating in many ways, like the 2% grants. But I think we could count on them for a lot more. And I think that talking with Beta as a sort of a pseudo-government organization, that everybody should be working on these things together. The city, the county, the Garfield Township because it's fast growing, Beta because of transportation, and the tribe. I don't hear too many things about the tribe, but one project I had worked on in the past involved the land would be free to put a building out by Turtle Creek, and the people that built the building would own it, but they would not own the land, and that would be a better starting point as far as what it would cost to build something. Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you. As a coalition builder and creative problem solver, I've worked to solve problems with a lot of other organizations and initiatives together. And we, as a city, as the heart of our region, have a role as the leader in this problem. We can't wait for other entities to come to us. We are the strongest municipality in the region with really the fewest problems. And we are the ones really to take a leadership role, and I anticipate working very hard at that.
Amy?
Yeah, so we do need to work, as I mentioned during the housing question, that we do need to sit down and work as a group locally to address the local needs, in some cases 1 county, in some cases 3 to 5. So that's something that's just constantly evolving that we're working on based on funding. But I would say that we've had some recent better strides. Again, the TART Trail, that's been multi-jurisdictional, and that's gotten a lot of people at the table haven't been in a while, and that's something to start building from that I think we can move on towards. But the city is the center, and everybody does look at us, but we are finite. We're 8 miles, and we have a smaller budget, so we really have to get other people to start pitching in as well.
Dave?
Yes, I think we absolutely should be collaborating with the county and with area townships. We all have a vested interest in being successful, and by collaborating, we're all pulling in the same direction. So we can, together we can affect housing, we can affect public transportation, and of course economic development.
Katie? What do they call that? Yes.
I wore my invisibility.
Yeah, I know. All right. If you insist, go on. Wow.
Yeah, so I think that, we absolutely need to cooperate with the surrounding townships, with neighboring counties. I'd like to see Traverse City bring all of the regional stakeholders together and have some kind of joint planning session to come up with a comprehensive plan for housing and infrastructure and transportation. But I don't think that co-ops our responsibility to lead as a city in housing in our city.
Katie?
Thank you. Our surrounding townships and the county as a whole, they use our infrastructure, right? Everybody comes downtown and they use it, and so we should probably be collaborating and coordinating with them to make sure that it's good for everybody. I also think that we need to involve the state. We've been passing pilot after pilot, and then it gets turned down in Lansing, and we are working on changing some of the requirements for those policies so that they can get passed and we can do more for housing up here.
Shay?
Garfield Township does a lot for affordable housing. Why are we not talking to them already? They should definitely be at the table with us when we talk about what are we doing for housing, what are we doing for our economics, all of the things that we're talking about here tonight. Why are they not talking to us? So yeah, we need to talk to the counties, the townships, all of them.
Jim?
The short answer is yes. We need to be taking a regional approach on all of our issues and working with our metro townships and our county. Just last night, East Bay Township came to the City Commission to have us partner on a Eagle grant for E. coli issues in East Bay. So they're coming to us. We'd like to come to them. We do have a lot set up with our supervisors and our region. So it's time for us to all sit together and work on the issues together because everybody benefits from Traverse City.
All right, our next question.
Haven't gone yet. I'm Christy Minervini.
A little warm in here, maybe.
Absolutely, we need to cooperate and collaborate more with the county and the surrounding townships. But I think just relying on open communication and good intentions is not the way to go. I'm very encouraged by the new EDO and what's happening with Traverse Connect and bringing regional municipalities together to look at economic development. Traverse City can't always go on its own. We need to rely on other nonprofits like Beta and Traverse Connect and Watershed to assist us with this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question will be for Ashley, and was kind of a long question. I think we're going to have to consolidate it a little bit. Do you think we have adequate public safety, which I assume is police, for emerging issues such as speeding, traffic, dangerous illegal motorist behavior at stop signs, and the increase of opiate and liquor-related policing? It's just like
Get all
all
that?
of these things that are going wrong. Do we have enough police, I guess, is that what it's?
Is that the question?
Yeah, I
Do we
think
have
so.
enough police enforcement for our issues?
I guess that would.
Well, I think that we have the beginning toward a solution. We just this summer added a police officer downtown, and from my understanding, that has helped, especially in the downtown business district. I'm not sure yet, we haven't seen the statistics come out fully on how successful that has been, but I think it's a great start. I don't think that enforcement is the really solution to all of those problems. We need to build community and build economic success for people in our community and create more community connection and neighborhood strength. And through those initiatives, we will solve a lot of our, some of these other problems that were mentioned.
Amy?
So the reality is that it costs $100,000 every time we add a police officer. So that's a lot to take on, especially when we're just talking about traffic. They're not meant to make their money back. That's not how police work. They're meant to serve and protect. That's why we have, under Chief O'Brien, instituted community policing. So instead of waiting for there to be problems, we have officers out interacting with the community at community meetings, at schools, at places where people are gathering. So that's been great. We've also had this officer that we split the cost with for downtown with DDA. So those kind of partnerships have helped us to kind of eat that cost, if you will. So there's other opportunities we're exploring, but the community policing has been a cornerstone that's been seen very good results.
Dave?
Yeah, I know a few of the police officers in town, and they do a great job. Do we have enough? There's always going to be crime at different levels. But I think of the police officers on bikes, during the warmer months, and they're out there curbing, speeding, traffic, even bicyclists. So is there enough? I guess I'd have to talk to the police department to get some data on that. But the ones that I know that are out there are doing a great job.
Evan?
Short answer, yeah, I think that we have enough public enforcement as far as a police force goes. When it comes to traffic issues, people speeding, people blowing stop signs, things like that, that's just an infrastructure issue. We need to narrow some streets, discourage people from driving too fast. That's how you calm traffic in our neighborhoods.
Katie?
Yeah, law enforcement costs money. All of these things cost money. So if we want more police officers, what are we taking from to make that happen? I do think that Chief O'Brien has done a good job engaging the community and listening to what we need and making sure that they are a calming presence with the downtown officer, especially, and instead of just a crack the whip kind of mean guy thing. I think they're doing a good job right now.
Shay?
I do think that the police department is doing a pretty good job. I definitely am in favor of the community policing that they're working on. I also agree with Evan when he talks about speeding. That's just an infrastructure problem. We need narrower streets, more tree-lined streets, parking chicanes, roundabouts, all that kind of stuff. So, but I think the police department is doing a fantastic job.
Jim?
It's difficult to have police at every corner to enforce everything that goes on in this community. Jeff O'Brien, our chief of police, has instituted community policing, and he's doing a great job with that, changing the makeup of the community. We've also done right sizing studies in the past, and we're really close to the right size for our community. We're down about 1 or maybe 2 officers. We did hire some more this summer, and with the downtown officers. So we're working at trying to add law enforcement and get the job done through community policing.
Christine?
to build on what's already been said, I really do support this community policing that's been happening. I think that our police department is doing a great job of building relationships with businesses, residents, the library, et cetera. From what I understand, crime stats are actually down, and Jim mentioned it. We are also understaffed at the police department right now, so the money's been budgeted. I don't think we need to increase our budget. I think we need to staff up. Thank you.
Tom?
Well, one of the interesting things about me is that I'm interested in the environment, and I'm also interested in law enforcement. And I had to call them recently because my neighbor's home was being broken into. And it was nice to see how it happened, the involvement by the police, because the county sheriff also came. And I live near Front and Division. And I'd like to see that be known to everybody, that the county sheriff can take calls in the city. It's not just the city police. But I've also talked to the union representative for the city police, and he is certain that they are down at least 1 or 2 officers. There are hours during the day where only 2 officers are on duty, and some calls, both officers have to be at. That leaves the rest of the town with no officer. They do need to hire more officers, whether it's in the budget or not. And I could just throw this back in. One thing, 5 parking places in a parking deck can pay for 1 officer. There you go.
Ashley?
I started the question.
You started, yes.
I started it.
Yes, you did.
So we're done.
We're going to
I
finish.
can go on.
No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. We're kind of getting, we want to save space for the audience. So I think we'll do one more regular question, and then we have a lightning round. So we want to do the lightning round. So Amy can have our last question. Would you initiate regular town hall meetings where questions relating to the city could be addressed to the city commissioners, and have them answered?
Oh, that's an interesting concept, so I'm glad I got that first out of the bat, and I had time to think about it. But I think that gets tricky. I think there definitely needs to be more dialogue. One of the things I would like to push in the next budget year if I'm reelected is putting out an RFP for part-time communications direction from a firm. I think we can improve on that matter. That could be a possibility of a look at a rules change more than needing to have a town hall. Right now, it's the rules of public comment that we don't interact because people get their assigned time. If that's something that the public would like to see us change, we have an organizational meeting right after the election, and the timing for public comment, things like that are always brought up, and that's certainly something we could bring up. I think that we've done different meetings at the Opera House in places. That's a little less formal. It can make it a little easier for people to interact and talk. So I think exploring other ways to do it rather than adding more and more meetings would be an option we could look at, as well as maybe having special topic study sessions, if you would, more dialogue.
Dave?
I think it's an interesting idea, town hall, periodically. And, I was with a group that came before the city commission several times, and it felt like a lot of times we were talking past each other because there really isn't a dialogue. As citizens, you get to witness the conversation of the city commission, and then you get to comment afterwards. So there was a lot of talking past each other, and the efficiency could have been, we could have been a lot more efficient if we were able to have those conversations back and forth, I think.
Evan?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea. It's nothing I've ever considered before, but let's give it a shot. Whether it's we change the rules of public comment at city commission meetings, or we have separate town hall events, I think it could be a good way to hold us accountable and to have people have their voices heard.
Katie?
Yeah, as somebody who has attended a lot of city meetings and has commented publicly, I think changing the rules of public comment sounds like a nightmare. I think that we can go about communication differently. You can call, you can email, you can interact with people, maybe not people who are echoing all of your same sentiments. Let's talk to people who consider different issues and have different ideas. Town hall, I guess, it would depend on the structure, but changing public comment, again, sounds like a nightmare, so.
Shay?
For the past couple of weeks, I've been out there knocking on doors and actually having one-on-one conversations with people. I enjoy that a lot. So I would totally be open to exploring a town hall I think a really good example is the DDA and their work on the Lower Boardman. They're doing a lot of public outreach programs. I don't know if anybody's gone to them, but yeah, it would be something that the city should explore.
Jim?
Town hall's an interesting concept. The city does have many boards and commissions and opportunities for the citizens to come and communicate with each other. The citizens can go see our staff, our city manager, our city clerk's office. Citizens can always go and use our staff to get their questions answered. And as most municipalities go, Traverse City is very liberal with their public comment. We offer public comment after every topic. You go to the county, you get 2 shots, beginning and the end of the meeting. So we actually offer a lot more public comment than most.
Christy?
I would support any opportunity for better public engagement. I'm actually running my campaign on this idea. What I've seen happen is that the residents are informed way too late in the process of what the city commission is voting on, and then they show up, for the vote or very late in the game. I feel like we should be engaging everyone much earlier in the process and perhaps even involving residents in crafting these proposals that come in front of us. Thank you.
Tom?
County meetings and city meetings, pretty much the same, except the city doesn't have that first public comment, and I think a lot of people would like to have that. I was at the last town hall meeting that was held in this room, and it was sponsored by 2 fishing groups, and to discuss the Boardman River. And then the DNR was just there as a guest. They weren't officially there. It went very, very well. It was total engagement. It was very democratic with a small d, and I support the whole idea of a town hall meeting. This room was packed for the fishing one on the river subject.
And Ashley?
Absolutely, I support town hall meetings in addition to looking at the public comment format right now. We can always do better. One reason, and like Christy said, increased engagement is the best thing for our democracy, and the more voice is heard, the better. It can sometimes slow down the process, but we get to a better result in the end. So we need to open it up to more voices and more stakeholders, and absolutely town halls would be a great idea.
We actually used to have town halls when Richard Lewis was the city manager, and they were very popular, but we don't do them anymore. So since it's getting late, we're going to do a lightning round. So everybody has a number, and I have 9 questions, and they're not throwaway questions. They're very important questions, but every candidate will get 1 question, and they'll get 1 minute to answer it. So number 1, Amy. Amy gets 1. All right. Do you think that poor wages contribute to the lack of affordable housing in Traverse City?
Absolutely. I think we have 2 factors going on here, which if you look at the study by Traverse Connect that came out, is we have wealthier retirees moving up here, which is increasing the housing value, but our wages haven't kept up. So I think that that's been a huge component, both in our affordable housing issues and just other affordability issues we have in our town, right? Our people being pushed out beyond the outskirts of town and even the limits of Grand Traverse County. Again, to reference the Traverse Connect study, we just got it. I'm very excited about the data in there. I'm excited that this outside group led by the chamber, which I think is very important, is bringing people to the table to talk about this issue. We can't at the top, because of laws at the top from the state, we can't just set a higher minimum wage. We're actually barred from doing that. So the best thing we can do is get everybody at the table, have these real conversations, and look the employers in the eyes, look the developers in the eyes, and say, how are we going to come to an agreement that this isn't how it's going to work, and how are we going to fix it? So this is early stages, but I have hope for that process as we move along within the framework we have.
All right, number 2. All right. So we have Shay. Should parking fines go to the DDA for its use or for the general fund, and why?
I think it should go to the city's general fund so that we can use it to fund public infrastructure projects such as more protected bike lanes so that less people are actually driving and getting parking tickets. It could also, help add sidewalks so that, again, people are driving less through our neighborhoods, parking less in our neighborhoods. So, yeah, I think it should go to the general fund.
3. Yep, Katie. Should toxic chemicals be banned for all city and private landscaping due to the serious effects on bird populations?
Yes.
Okay, well, that would be kind of hard to do, especially with the landscaping
Do-
businesses.
Do I need, I still say yes. I mean, we need to think about our community, our river, our water resources. Yes, the bird population is important. Yes, this would probably lose me some landscaping owner votes, but yeah, I have a problem with toxic chemicals being used on our city property. I've seen the area around the chamber sprayed, and it's right next to the river, and it's right next to the bay, and it bothers me. So yes.
Number 4, Tom. Should parking meters be installed in historic neighborhood districts?
No.
Is this our lightning round? Alrighty. Oh, I'm sorry. That was actually it?
I said no.
All right, all right. Alrighty. 5. Is Dave, all right, this is, what was the actual benefit to the residents of Traverse City of the Ironman Triathlon? And should actual financial benefits be disclosed and compared to financials of previous years?
Yeah, the Ironman, I guess there's a couple parts to this. If we want to invite people to come to this community, I can't think of a better group of people. They're healthy, they're fit, they have big dreams. That's inspiring. They spend money downtown eating at our hotels, and they're in bed by 8:30, not causing any problems. Now, we all know that there were some traffic issues that need to be corrected and should be corrected. And we also may or may not know that the Ironman is owned by a Chinese company. And we have to ask ourselves, do we want to use our public land for the profit of a foreign company or any other company? So there may be a room for the city itself to create an events commission where we profit. You know, there were 2,500 people in the Ironman. They paid $300 each. That's $750,000. And TC Tourism actually paid the Ironman to be here on top of that. So
Number 6, the mayor, all right. This is really odd, but somebody wrote it in. Would you support a move to abolish the DDA? Sorry.
Well, as a member of the DDA, it is an interesting question. I think the DDA has served its purpose. It's created a thriving downtown. It's a business organization. I think we need to rethink its mission and its charge. We've gone through some strategic planning in the past year, but how big is too big? How much is too much? How much diversion of our tax dollars with TIF, et cetera, should we be supporting? I think we should consider reviewing the livelihood of our downtown, and is the DDA really worth it at this point?
Number 6, Evan?
I'm 7. I thought we'd already done 6.
We did.
What is with you down there? Number 7. Who is 7?
I'm 7.
You're 7. I'm going to get you a really good question here.
You'll all remember me tonight, that's for sure.
Oh, Lordy. Do we have enough green space in downtown Traverse City? And if not, how can we increase it?
No, I don't think that we do. I think that we can increase our tree canopy on our streets. That's one way to increase a small amount of green space. I think that the creation of parks where possible would be great, whether it's on existing surface parking lots or things like that. This pop-up park that's been proposed for the vacant lot on West Front Street, I think that's fantastic. I know it's probably not going to happen, but if we could make that permanent, that would be a very good thing. So no, I don't think there is enough green space, and I would love to see the expansion of green space in our downtown.
Number 8. What specifically can be done to improve public transportation in the city?
I love this question. No, Beta is doing a fantastic job and such a gem in our community. And one thing we can do is to encourage more people to use it, to experience the value in our public transit system. I think even though they're doing a great job, they're not reaching their capacity, and we can do a lot more. We can add more routes when people need them. We can add, I know there's talk of a north-south route. We used the Bay Line this summer, and that was a fantastic experience. And I know the ridership is up due to all the hard work from Beta. Love to see that just continue rolling and do more collaboration with other active transportation initiatives throughout the community, and looking forward to seeing how that impacts fewer cars and more people walking and biking and using public transit.
And number 9, I would guess, would be Christy. Are you in favor of passing the tree ordinance?
I have to tell everyone that I haven't actually made up my mind on this one. I will say that I think that the stakeholders and the residents and anyone who would be affected by this tree ordinance probably should have been called in earlier in the development of it. The first draft was no good. I do like the fact that the second draft was a product of better collaboration and bringing those stakeholders in. But I need to study it more, I need to learn more, and I need to hear from more of you on what you think about it. Thank you.
Well, it doesn't leave us a lot of time for public questions, but I think we should get a few. The microphone is over here, so if anybody wants to get up and ask a question, like 20 seconds to ask the question. And Mike will keep track of that also. You can ask a question of just one candidate or two, or you can ask something that would be applicable to all 9 candidates. And state your name and where you live if you want.
Is this on? Nope. Yeah? No? My question is about TIF 97, which is currently in the news. The big question being, should it be expired in the year 2027, as was promised, or should it be extended? I've heard some of you say it should be renewed. Being renewed is different from extending it. Yes or no, are you in favor of extending TIF 97?
Is this for everybody?
Yes or no?
I'll have to say the name, so we'll start. Katie?
Yes.
Evan?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Tom?
No.
Christy?
Yes.
Jim?
No.
And Shay?
150% yes.
Alrighty. You have a question?
Hi, my name is Melanie Jones, and I'd like to see by a show of hands who would support the responsible shutdown of Line 5 for the safety of our Great Lakes. Very good.
So we have a unanimous show of hands, so that's everybody. So we have a couple more questions we can fit in there.
My name is Becky Mang. Recently, the City Commission voted to use funding that was designed for a forester for completing projects that needed to be done within the city's treescape, which I agree with. But in lieu of hiring a forester, by a show of hands, how many of you would find the money to hire a city forester?
I'm not sure I understand.
I think that question is more complex than a yes or no or a simple show of hands, because if the funds are there.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so we go down. All right, Katie?
Yes.
Evan?
Yes, however, I know that Derek Melville, the supervisor of the Parks and Recreation Department, I mean, he understands it better than I do, and they didn't need the forester currently, but, 5 years from now, yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Amy?
This goes into the communication component. What we hired was somebody to do a lot of the work to free up the people who actually are trained as foresters and or work with the arborists to do that job and not be out there actually watering the trees. These people are much more skilled than that. So the money went to actually hiring somebody to support them in the cemeteries and doing that kind of on-the-ground work. Well, the people who are actually trained can get to the business of doing the planning for the canopy and the tree structure.
Ashley?
Our tree canopy is incredibly important to our quality of life and our environment. And I support hiring a professional to guide our ordinance and to guide the people doing the work. Right now, we don't have that person in place, and we need to have a professional to oversee the process.
Tom?
Yes, full-time urban forester who is an arborist and certified by the national organizations for their profession. I believe that is the most important thing. Those, as far as I know, the other employees that have been hired as sort of part-time or extra duty, they're being shared with more than one department. They're not exclusively going to be working on our trees.
Christy?
I support hiring a forester primarily if he or she is focused on planting and nurturing our trees rather than enforcing code. I would like someone who's actually making a difference rather than being a police officer.
Jim?
I support hiring a forester, and over our last budget process, the priority of the city commission was to request that staff did include that in our budget. Staff came up with an alternative plan for us to try. We're working on that right now by hiring through within our Parks Department to make this work. We'll see how it goes this year. If that should change, we still have the opportunity in our next year's budget to bring this up again.
And Shay?
If the funding's there, yeah, I'm all in favor.
All right, so we have 2 questions, or are we going to get 3? All right, so we'll do Rick, Sharon, and Tom, and then that will leave us time for the candidates to make their closing statements. So, Rick?
I'm sure you've all read about the Fish Patch project to take place by the Union Street Dam, and it would appear that the City Commission, which if you're elected would be your vote, plans to approve the construction of the project. That would require the removal of a city park, that being Union Street Dam Park, and the clear cutting of 63 mature trees. Would you vote yes, build it and remove the park and trees, or no?
Do you want me to start again?
Can anybody let us know what that question was? I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, so Mr. Burkholter is asking if we would approve the removal of the dam in favor of the Fish Pass project. And I think that it is important to note that that dam is damaged and is not currently functioning the way that it is supposed to. So something was going to have to happen there. It's a multi-million-dollar fix in that project. We were approached by, I'm not sure the organization, but we were approached to do the Fish Pass project as a study, and they will be replacing the dam for us. So we will not be using city funds to replace that dam, which is part of its appeal. Now, there are still things to talk about as far as I know there's some concern about non-native steelhead possibly passing through, or what types of fish we will allow through, because as these fish are going up the river and into our inland lakes, they may not be native. And so we want to know exactly what the intent there is with this scientific part of the project. But as far as removing the damaged dam and replacing it and having somebody else pay for that, that's fantastic.
I think maybe we got maybe 15 seconds for everybody else. Just so Evan.
Yes, I would vote for Fish Pass. Again, this is a project that would cost city taxpayers no money. It's a dam that needs to be replaced anyway, and we wouldn't be losing a park. A new park would be established there in the proposal as it exists.
Dave?
Yep, I agree with Katie and Evan. And the 60 or so trees would be replaced by 120 some trees. So, I've talked to fishermen friends who agree that if we can start collecting data and monitor the fish that are going up to the Boardman, it's a good thing for all of us. It's too early, there's not enough information yet, though, to decide if I'd vote for or against.
Amy?
Yeah, we've been getting updates on this for years now, literally. And it's a combination of multi-governments, not just in the United States, not just Canada, but around the world. We're getting the best minds on this. The trees that will be lost will be doubled, as was mentioned. And as to the fish capacity, though, the DNR is in charge of that, so please reach out to the DNR on those, because we'll never have a vote on that. That's always on them.
Ashley?
Yes, I'm in favor of the Fish Pass project and understand that it'll be an internationally renowned research center. And I don't know if I would go on record as saying it'll cost us nothing, because I don't know that for sure. I'm sure that the city will incur some costs, but the benefits will outweigh the costs.
Tom?
Well, the steelhead are eyeballing trying to go up the river, and that's why we blocked that off, so that they can't go up the fish ladder. After they took out the Saban Dam, they had to turn the fish ladder closed, basically. There's no question that the steelhead would like to go up, and I would like to wait and approve the Fish Pass when the DNR decides whether the steelhead are going to go up, because the steelhead is not the official fish of Michigan. It is actually the brook trout, and the brook trout habitat will be harmed by the steelhead, and that will diminish the number of official state fish in the Boardman River. Thank you.
Christy?
I like the plan and that the majority of it is coming from outside funding sources. I also like the educational component of it. But again, I'm open to hearing from citizens and learning more. Thank you.
Jim?
This community spent almost 10 years trying to figure out what to do with the Boardman River, the Ottaway River. And we decided to remove 3 dams and to repurpose Union Street Dam to stop invasives. The Great Lakes Fisheries Commission has stepped forward with an idea, with a plan, with a study to make this happen. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be what everybody wants, but it's going to upgrade a facility, a park. It's going to help repurpose our dam that is in sore need of repair, and it's going to make a urban landscape with a great pedestrian area in our core.
Shay?
I'm actually really excited about the Fish Pass as a place for universities to come and study the Great Lakes, the rivers, the fish, the habitat, all of it. So yeah, I'm all in favor of the Fish Pass.
Sharon, do you have something that's kind of short?
I hope so. Hi.
Really?
Thank you all for volunteering to serve your community. I wish I could vote for all of you. My question is, does anyone have any thoughts on how to make sidewalks more passable in the winter?
It was sidewalks in the winter.
I do.
Do you want everyone, Sharon? Yeah, let's make it a short, everybody, just a short. Want to start, how about Katie again? Yeah, 15 or under.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what areas. We do have, machines that go and clear some sidewalks. If you're talking about downtown areas, I know that the DDA has some heated sidewalk projects that they're considering, but a lot of those are buy-in with business. So yes, I would love to. I think we're working on it, and I hope we make some headway soon.
Evan?
I would like to see more heated sidewalks downtown, and we do currently have a snow removal ordinance. So if you are a property owner with a sidewalk, you are required to clear it within a certain amount of time, and I would like to see that enforced.
Dave?
Yep, what those guys said, plus we already do have some snow removal operations. I know on my streets it's cleared pretty regularly. I know that Norte volunteers. I know that I live on a corner, and I clear those corners. I think we all have to do our part.
Amy?
Yeah, I'd love heated sidewalks everywhere too, but that's big money and a lot of infrastructure that we don't have right now. In the meantime, I would agree. I'm mostly a carrot over a stick kind of person, but I think we've given a lot of carrots for shoveling and allowing, especially downtown, people to control their own, and they don't always do a great job. So I think we need to start really enforcing that more soundly.
Ashley?
As you know, winter is about 6 months of the year. in here. And I do love winter, and I don't mind shoveling and helping out our neighbors either. I think part of it is helping out each other and probably a little bit more enforcement and being connected to our neighbors when they need a hand with their own sidewalks.
Tom?
The biggest problem with sidewalks is downtown because the city planning requires all the new buildings to be built to the sidewalk. And there's no place to put the snow. It's illegal to push the snow into the street, so I don't know what's supposed to happen. But if you don't start requiring the city to heat the sidewalks every time they put a new building in, it's going to be a problem because there's no way to clear the sidewalk.
Christy?
I like the idea of some sort of a communication campaign or a public engagement campaign where we're encouraged to look out for our own property and for our neighbor's property. And as someone who owned a business downtown, I did clear my sidewalks and I did find a spot for the snow to go. Thank you.
Jim?
Over the past several seasons, the city's actually expanded our sidewalk snow removal program. We've invested in it. We've got more people out on the streets pushing the snow. We can't do everything for everybody depending on the amount of snow. We're doing what we can. It's an expensive program, but I think the city's come a long way, and we can do better, but it just depends on how much snow we get every winter.
Shay?
I think enforcing the ordinance, expanding the snow removal are all really good things. And honestly, I live in a condo, so I don't have to do it. So if you want to call me, I'll volunteer.
All right, Tom, do you have a kind of a short one?
Yeah, it's not a question.
Oh.
Tom Emmett. So I had a problem with the responses to an earlier question, so I would ask all of you to drive the stretch of road beginning at Garfield and East Front Street, take it all the way down Front Street, out onto the Parkway, and beyond the city limits, and just see all the reckless driving, the speeding, the tailgating. It's horrendous. And do that during rush hour, both in the AM and the PM. Thank you.
Alrighty, now we're going to wrap up. We're going to, each candidate will get 1 minute for their closing statements now. And we're going to start with Evan. There you go. Just so we don't forget him.
Thanks again to Elizabeth and Mike for organizing this and moderating it. Thank you all for coming. It's been an honor to be here. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck here in the city, what it's like to eke out, some semblance of a middle-class life, raising a family. And that's a perspective that I would like to see more of on all levels of government. But I'd like to see it here on city government. I look forward to talking to all of you face-to-face if the opportunity presents itself. I look forward to serving you on the next commission if you give me that honor. So please consider voting for me on November 5th. Thank you.
Katie?
My name is Katie Bertodato. I am pro-responsible growth. I believe that there's a balance point between our neighborhoods and our businesses, and we don't have to be at odds. I think that communication can help with a lot of that. I believe in an action-oriented commission. That's what I would like to see. I want to see us be proactive instead of reactive, and I hope you'll vote for me November 5th.
Shay?
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I'd just like to leave everyone with the thought that if we don't start proactively addressing a lot of the issues that we've spoken about and a lot of the issues that we're all talking about one-on-one as we knock on doors, we're going to continue to see a decline in family-age people, working-class people, myself included. And I would hate to see a Traverse City without people that are engaged and intelligent and problem solvers. So I hope everybody goes out on November 5th and votes for me.
Jim?
Again, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, the Boardman Neighborhood, for hosting us this evening at the beautiful Traverse Area District Library. It's been my privilege and honor, as I said, to be your mayor for the past 4 years. I'd appreciate your vote in November to be your mayor again. I feel I've done a great job at managing the city. In my tenure, as I said, we've accomplished a lot, as well as hit every top 10 list that we can imagine. There's good and bad to that, but I feel that through my leadership and my leadership with my colleagues on the City Commission, we've done a pretty darn good job at managing this great town that we all call home. managing our natural resources, managing our growth, managing our energy use, managing the needs and wishes of our residents in our neighborhoods, in both commercial and residential neighborhoods. So it's a tough job. It doesn't pay much, and we take a lot of heat from you all, and our numbers are out there, our emails are there, but it's been my privilege again, and I hope to serve you again for 2 more years.
Christy?
I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to share thoughts with you this evening. I thank the Boardman Neighborhood Association and also my colleagues up here. It's really hard to put yourself out there, and I respect the job that everyone's been doing. I'm running because I believe that we need to protect, nurture, and grow Traverse City in a way that honors its history and its small-town character while providing for the opportunities and the quality of life that we need. My mantra, if I am elected to City Commission, will be listen, learn, and lead. With my experience as an advocate, community builder, and business owner, I think that I can bring a unique perspective to the City Commission, and I hope that I earn your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Tom?
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and missing one of the last nights of summer outdoors. It was pretty nice today. I would like to serve you. I have already shown my diligence. I have shown you how serious I am. I investigate everything before I vote. I've studied some of the more complicated subjects deeply, including brownfield, TIF, tax capture. Those are confusing, and I try to be able to keep up with the people who know more than me. On housing, I think that's our number one issue, but we're facing historically high real estate values. These are the highest values the real estate here has ever sold for. So it's almost impossible odds to come up with the property that can afford people. And it's not just singles, it's not just people that are looking for a single apartment. Families are in need of housing, and I don't hear much mention of that. There was a plan to build family housing on the property at the Park Place, and I would like to revisit that. There are plenty of things that have already occurred that we've forgotten about. Studies, in other words. I'm not a big enthusiast of studies, but I can tell you there are some that have just basically been shelved. And these ideas, whether they were warranted to have a study or not, need to be examined. We maybe need to go back and take a look on the bookshelf and see what's sitting there. Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you. My name is Ashley Walter, and I would be honored to serve you as a city commissioner for the next 4 years. In this particular season of life, I want to give back to our community that's been so good to me and my family, and I want to thank my family for their support. My husband and my youngest daughter just came in tonight, and it's so important to me that my daughters see what active representation and democracy really looks like, and I'm proud to step up and serve in that capacity. I offer you years of experience as a coalition builder, creative problem solver, and passionate protector of community, and I look forward to serving you in November. Thank you.
And Dave? Amy, excuse me.
So I just wanted to say again, thank you everyone for coming and for having us here in this great discussion with the excellent questions. As I mentioned, I was born and raised here, and this is a place that I feel very honored and to be serving here, serving this community, to be involved in this process and looking towards the future. One of the best things I do every year, every semester, is I go speak with students at different high schools as a city commissioner and talk to them about why they want to leave or what they want to see change and stay. And I always like that perspective balanced with talking to all of our current residents. And I think that's the important balance that I look for. Over the last 4 years, I've been able to do some of the things I listed, the energy with our team, the energy goals, the fiber and everything else, but it's kind of interesting to note that unusually over the last 4 years we've had 4 different commissions, and we've been able to work together. I've been able to work on all of those to accomplish these goals. I look forward to hopefully serving with whoever comes next. It's not always easy. There's a lot of restrictions that people don't always know are out there, but it's worth the time, the sometimes 30, 35 hours a week, because it's such an impact to be working with everybody in this community to make such a difference.
And Dave?
Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's an important time in Traverse City's history. It's an exciting time. It feels like the conversations are now to the point where we can really start thinking about getting rid of two of the issues that have been around for decades. One is housing in Traverse City. I moved here 20 years ago, and even then, I couldn't find an apartment downtown, and that hasn't changed much. The other one is working on economic development downtown. You know, the view of the bay for half the pay, I hope, becomes a relic of a saying. I think our neighborhoods, the residents here are starting to recognize, as well as the business component of our community, we're starting to recognize that we need each other to be at our best. And if we can keep working in that direction, good things are going to happen. I'm going to stick around if anybody has any questions, by the way.
Yeah, the candidates have agreed to stick around for a little while. We went a little bit over, but when you've got 9 people, it's kind of hard to get a hold of them. But we want to thank the candidates for coming.
We have 2 more.
It started with me.
See, we've lost track now. Elizabeth,
forget.
sorry.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, well done.
So, all right, I feel vindicated now. So, that's what I'd say. We want to thank the candidates for helping us get to know you all a little bit. I think we know you a little bit better tonight after this. We want to thank the library, and especially Aaron, who helped us set up. We want to thank Leah for filming this event. It'll be broadcast in the coming days. And most importantly, we want to thank you, the audience, for caring enough about the city that we all live in to come out tonight. So, good night.